Hi, Bookaholics. This is Deirdre Pippins, the true Bookaholic and Queen of Bookaholics. And today we have a first at the Bookaholic podcast. We have our first international author, Jude Calvert-Toulmin from the UK. So give her a warm welcome and listen as we dive right in to hear her author's story. Hello, Judy, from across the pond.
Hi, Deirdre. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, so it's morning here in the States. Is it afternoon in the UK?
Yeah, it's dark, so I've got the studio lights on. So yeah, it's 20 past 4 here in the UK. Dark
Okay.
and very cold. Yes.
Yes. Oh, and it's very cold.
Yeah. Not in the studio, but outside it is. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, wow. Well, here it's an England day. It's raining where
Okay.
I'm at. And not too cold or anything, but it's a very mild temperature day. But yes, it'll be dark soon for you. I know at 4:30,
Yeah, it's
by
dark
5 o'clock
already.
or
Yeah.
6, it's
Yeah,
completely
it's dark
dark now.
already.
So
Yeah, 3:30 it's
yeah.
dark.
Oh gosh. Well, I am so happy to have you here, even though we have that
Thank you.
tremendous time difference. So thank you for joining the Bookaholic podcast. Now, I want to just dive right in. I saw a quote somewhere, and I can't remember where, but a person was giving you a review, and they were saying, oh, Judy's books, you can either get divorced or get married or have a baby or whatever. And it's like your books are leading people to these major life decisions. Oh my gosh. Do you know the review I'm speaking of, or have you heard that before?
The speed. Sorry, say that again, Deirdre.
I said, well, did you hear what I was saying about the review?
Yeah. Well, there's been what it is there's been a couple of books that have had uh, big effects on separate readers' lives. I mean, my erotic novel, Mother-in-Law, Son-in-Law, which was one of my earlier novels, that was a bestseller. Um, that one, I had readers emailing me saying that because this was kind of we're talking about 2009 here, so it's like
Okay.
very early days of Facebook, before Instagram, and people used to email, and they used to email and say, we've been me and my husband have been reading the book in bed together, and it's
Oh my.
reignited our marriage. And yeah, one reader said it led to a baby because they presumed their sex life after a long absence. And
Yeah, I
I
guess
mean,
so.
it makes you feel as if it's really worthwhile being an author if you can change somebody's life in such a positive way.
Right.
And then another of my novels, My Adventures in Cyberspace, um, a reader in Europe just picked it up in a hotel foyer. They had a bookshelf in this boutique hotel in somewhere in Europe, and she picked it up and liked the cover and read it, and she ended up um, tracking me down again. It was kind of before social media really took off, and she ended up
Yes.
finding my phone number and phoning me up, and we had a couple of long conversations, and she was really interested in my work, and she ended up coming over to England to visit, and she fell in love with somebody who had partly inspired one of the characters in the book, and they ended up together, and she left her husband and uh, her multi-millionaire banker husband who'd been treating her badly, and she moved to England and settled down with this person who'd inspired a character in the book that she'd read in a boutique hotel in Europe. So I mean,
That
it was
is crazy.
lovely to change somebody's life like that again for the positive. Really makes it
Wow,
feel
that
worthwhile.
that is completely nuts. I'll have to talk to you behind off camera about that one because I'm really curious about more on that. But let's talk about your erotic novel. And so, was
Mhm.
that your first book?
Uh, well, I'd already written my adventures in cyberspace, which is the one that was in the boutique hotel. But I set up a
Okay.
publishing company, Fleur de Lis Publishing, which has published all my books. And I wanted to, as a newbie publisher, I wanted to make any publishing mistakes on a book that didn't matter to me so much. So I wrote an erotic novel in 3 months. I mean, I just sort of tossed it off, so to speak. Whereas my adventures in cyberspace, I've been working on it for years. So I just wrote this, what I saw as a throwaway novel, just to test my publishing skills and make my
Okay.
mistakes on them. And I did make some mistakes, but don't we all? That's how you learn.
That's how
Um,
you learn.
yeah, so it was my second novel, but it was the first one that I published, and but I really enjoyed writing it, and readers asked for more, so I wrote a sequel, A Passion for Classic Cars. The classic car being like a middle-aged woman, because it's about the protagonist is a middle-aged woman who has younger lovers. Um,
Oh, well, so okay, so
she's
hold
like
on.
she's
So
like
we
the
were talking.
classic car, as it were.
Uh,
Um, and it's very much in
well,
celebration of older women, because there's this kind of feeling in society that you can only be kind of sexually attractive when you're young. I think things are getting better now, definitely getting better. But, again, we're going back sort of 13 years. I think a lot has changed now.
well,
And it's in
so
celebration of older women, really, the older women's sexuality.
well, let's okay. So instead of going to the erotic novel, we kind of got on to the and I was going to ask you about this: the mother-in-law, son-in-law,
Yeah, that's the erotic novel. Yeah, those two.
a passion for
And Passion
classic
for
cars,
Classic.
and a
Yeah.
hidden passion for classic cars. That's a series, a trilogy, if you will.
Well, A Hidden Passion for Classic Cars is a special edition of A Passion for Classic Cars, because my grown-up children were complaining that they couldn't read my book because it was an erotic book, and you don't like to think of your mum you can't read an erotic novel that your mum's written. So what I did is I wrote, I produced a copy of the book that had all the kind of explicit sex scenes taken out, so they
Okay.
could
Oh, okay.
read it just as a romantic novel, because the story stands alone.
Right.
I mean, without the sex scenes.
Well,
So that
I
is
want
a
to
kind of
read the other
book.
kind. I want to read the one. I want to read the one with with all the scenes that you wrote in there.
It's pretty explicit.
Hey,
I'm
okay. Look, I'm
struggling
a
to handle
grown
it.
up. I can read
I'm
it.
sure you'll be able to handle it.
Well, but I like that. I like the fact that, and when I was kind of checking that out, I was not really understanding that. But that is a huge problem. I don't know what the deal is. I think, like you said that things are changing. Finally, I
Mhm.
used to see movie actresses say, oh, once they reached a certain age, Hollywood would only let them play mothers or grandmothers
Yeah.
or the helpful aunt or something like that.
Mhm.
And it was just too much for anybody to think that a woman 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever age, I don't know, we could probably pull out some other ages, was a sexual being who wanted to have sex and who wants to
Mhm.
be told she's pretty and who wants
Mhm.
to be flirted with, and I don't, so, the society has done so much damage and harm. Old ladies are mean, old ladies are dry, old ladies are this and that. And it's like, that is
Yeah.
extremely not true.
Absolutely.
Not
Yeah.
true whatsoever, so I don't know how we got on that level. I don't know why people only think that young people.
That's part of our patriarchal society, though. I mean,
Yes,
we're living in a patriarchal society. I mean, that's the way it is. Uh,
yes, yes,
Me Too notwithstanding. I mean, it's still a patriarchal society, and women are
most
judged
definitely.
on their looks, and they are only considered to be attractive when they are young and beautiful. And it puts a lot of pressure on young women to go under the knife, have surgery, have Botox, whatever.
Right,
Pressures
right,
that we didn't have when we were younger.
right.
And the kids are constantly trying to achieve this a look that they can't attain because
Exactly.
everything's done with filters anyway. So
Right.
I think there's a lot of pressure on younger women as well, but we still have the pressure as older women, in that once you get past I don't know, late 40s, early 50s, you're invisible on the street. I mean, you become invisible. I mean,
Right. Right.
and another thing is, while I'm at it, why are there no elderly female TV presenters who haven't had surgery? There's plenty of 60-year-old, 70-year-old men with wrinkles and not in great shape presenting TV. Why?
Yes.
Why is the why we're not allowed to be old and wrinkly and fat
No.
and still be
No.
in the public eye?
No.
And that's so wrong.
Well, I was looking at while I'm at the gym, they have on a certain station sometimes at the gym, and I'm not going to call the station name because anybody over the world would know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to get political or anything. But this particular station, they have four people, two men and two women, and the women are definitely all below the age of 35. They all have blonde hair, and the men are old and wrinkly and just can be those girls' fathers and grandfathers. But that's who they've got doing the news on this particular station in the
Yeah,
morning. And it's like,
yeah.
wow, people. I mean, can you do a little bit better than that?
We're in the
Mm.
Stone Age still, as far as
Yeah,
women's
we
equality.
are.
We are still
We
in the
really,
Stone Age. I mean,
we
there's
really
there's
are.
still so far to go. And in films, I mean, movie actors males get great roles in their kind of
Yes.
50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yes.
Whereas, there's just such a sparsity of roles for women. God, even when they're in their 40s, for
It
female
can
actors.
be depending on the actress. I mean,
Yeah.
but anyway, so I'm glad you wrote those books, and maybe we can promote those books even more because I think more people need to see those. And if through reading, if that there's the possibility, I guess that goes along the column of art imitating life or life imitating art, which way you want to look at it. Maybe we could imitate your art and go forward and be a better society for it. Because you know what? When you have all these judgments and walls out there against what type of look, I hate to hear that some person has a certain look, that they only date a certain look or a certain pick or a certain kind. Because you know what? All they're doing is blocking out some very valuable other people out of their lives. Your certain
I
look
know.
or pick could be a big fat zero across the board for you forever. And that's why a lot of people
I
end up
know.
so unhappy in love. If you would just
Yeah,
explore, maybe you need to date somebody 10 years older, 10 years young, whatever.
I
But
know.
if you can get out of that, you might find
I
fulfillment
know.
in love.
I
So,
had
but
a friend who's passed away now, who in his 50s, he was single and very wealthy, but he couldn't find a stable partner, and he wouldn't look at any woman under 25, and he
Oh
was in
my
his 50s.
goodness.
And he said that no woman over 40 should have long hair. He said once you hit 40, you should cut your hair and just look like the old lady that you are. And I just used to. I mean, it's when he started spouting this stuff that I kind of distanced myself from the friendship. But I just used to
Wow.
say, no wonder you're single if that's how you're going to look at women. And the women got younger and younger, and they were only after his money. And I tried to warn him, but anyway, he never found
Wow. That
anybody,
is
and
very,
then he passed away. So
yeah, that's very
anyway,
sad, actually.
really
Well,
sad.
now, so there was a book you read on UK television, wasn't it? And what was that? Which book was that?
That was Mother-in-law, Son-in-law. It was on a
Okay.
show called Come Dine With Me, a primetime show. Do you have
Okay.
Come Dine With Me in America? It's like they have it in Australia, they have it in Europe. I don't know if you have it in the USA. Come Dine With Me. It's when you get a group of 4 people around a dinner table, and one of them hosts a dinner party, and then on
Oh,
the other evenings, the other people host a dinner party. So you all take it in turns, and you vote on who's produced the best meal and been the best host or hostess.
oh,
And there's an after dinner bit where you have entertainment. And for one of the evenings, the last one in the series, my guest asked me to read from my novel Mother-in-law, Son-in-law. So I read a little bit. I mean, a family-friendly bit, obviously. And it's a big show in the UK, and there was about 5 million viewers or something when it's aired. So
oh my
it
gosh.
was. I read it in front of a lot of people, and then that's how it became a bestseller. It just whooshed to the top of the Amazon chart. So
Wow.
that was great. But it was good fun, and it was a great show, and I won it as well. So
Oh
that
my
was really good
gosh.
fun.
Wow. That
Yeah,
sounds
I got
exciting.
invited to a sequel. Actually, they did a sequel called just with Come Dine With Me winners. It was a bit like Bake Off. I don't know if you have
Yeah.
that in the
Yeah.
USA. That's
We
another
have
big
Bake Off.
British show. Yeah, so I got invited to appear in another show, which was a bit like Bake Off. It was a pure cookery show rather than just hostessing, and that was hard because it was a bit like it was before Bake Off, and we were
Yes.
cooking to a timer and stuff, and I was a runner-up in that, and that was great fun. Yeah, because I like
Wow.
cooking. Yeah.
Wow, goodness gracious, you do a little bit of everything. And speaking of doing a little bit of everything, you just have described your genre as contemporary fiction. But you
Mhm.
seem to have a variety, from the erotic to the gold to the let's see here, let me go back to here. You've got drowning, you've got
Yeah, drowning
my
is the
adventures
business of
in
my adventures in
cyberspace.
cyberspace. I think the theme
Yeah,
running
so you've
through
got
all of
such a
them, Deirdre,
variety.
even though they're all kind of contemporary fiction, and we've got erotica, obviously. The theme running through all of them is black comedy, really. I mean,
Okay.
they're all kind of they're not what I call. I haven't written them as comedy books. They're black comedy. So
Okay.
you're
Okay.
more sort of smiling wryly. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, even the erotic novels, there's quite a lot of kind of black comedy in there. But a black comedy for me is the holy grail of writing. That's what I think it's the hardest thing to write, and it's what I aim at. And I
Wow.
aim to
Well,
improve my craft all the time.
well, can you kind of describe what you mean by black comedy?
Uh, Black comedy. Uh, well, let's try and think of an example. Well, the film with Nail and I that inspired me to write The Gold, a film directed by Bruce Robinson, and he wrote the screenplay. That's pure black comedy. It's it's where you're kind of wincing. It's funny, but it's not like people telling jokes. It's
Right,
uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable comedy. It's about as far away from, say, Friends as you can get. I mean, Friends is, say, straight up comedy where you're
right,
laughing because it's light and it's funny. Whereas black
right.
comedy is more like it makes you wince. I think
Yes.
it's
Okay.
funny, but it's slightly uncomfortable because it's hitting truths that maybe you don't really want to face up to.
It, yeah,
So,
acknowledge like in public, and it makes you uncomfortable, like you
but it
said,
makes
or
you
when
laugh as well.
and you feel bad for the person somehow.
Yeah, I think black comedy is a very kind of empathic form of communication in your chosen media, really.
Yes.
Um, I think you have to have empathy to write black comedy well.
Right.
Um, so I'm trying to think of an American TV show or film that is pure black comedy, because I know with
Maybe
Now and I
Shameless. Maybe
was very,
Shameless.
very popular in England, but
Have you heard of
it's
Shameless?
probably not. Yeah, Shameless is black comedy. There you
Yeah.
go,
There we go.
Shameless. You
There
know,
we go.
The Office. I haven't seen the American version of The Office, but The Office is black comedy. Yeah,
Yes.
the
Yes.
I've heard the American version's very good. I've not seen it.
Oh yeah.
I'm a
The
big Ricky Gervais fan, so I've watched the British Office several times. Yeah, I
Yes.
love it.
Got you. Well, let's talk about your latest book is The Gold,
Yeah.
correct? Okay. Okay. So it's like a
Yes,
novel about obsession, addiction, creativity, and love. I mean, it sounds like
yeah.
my kind of book. It sounds like it's right up my alley.
Oh, good. Well, I hope if you get to read it, you'll enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah, basically it's set in several different locations. So there's a story arc taking place in LA, in
Mm-hmm.
Los Feliz, in Hollywood, and there's Los Feliz. Sorry, I would say it as an English person, Los Feliz, or Spanish, but they pronounce it Los Feliz.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in Los Feliz in LA, and in Essaouira in Morocco, in London, in North Yorkshire, where the Bruce character has his house with his family.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the characters have various problems that they're trying to overcome, and they're all
Right.
basically looking for love and happiness and struggling to find it, and many of the characters have got various addictions, not always to drugs and
Right.
alcohol, um,
Right.
but to the power and to their work. And
Right.
so yeah, it's addressing quite a lot of fundamental aspects of life,
Right. Right.
but I like the idea of it having many different locations, sort of in Europe and in the USA as well. So one of
Yes,
the
I
characters,
like.
I'm going to be recording the audiobook soon. I'm going to
Oh,
start after
great.
Christmas recording the audiobook. And one of
Oh,
the characters is an actress who hails from South Carolina. So
yes,
I've got to
yes,
do
you was,
a South Carolina accent, but I'm studying up
yes.
on that and practicing it. I really want to do. Yeah, I mean,
Oh gosh.
I'm not a voice artist, so I'm not going to just kind of go full pelt into kind of making every single character really individual. But I want to try this South Carolina accent. I think that's going to be fun. Yeah.
Well, if you can't seem to get it done, just call me. I live like a mile from South Carolina.
Yeah.
Wow, well, that sounds exciting. Now, Judy, who would you compare yourself to, like an American author? Um, who would you say you're close in genre or ranking to an American author, so that the
Absolutely
audience?
no idea. If we were comparing my work to a film, because my work's very filmic. I
Okay.
mean, I've got a degree in film and television, so my work
Okay.
is very it's very dialogue based. So in fact, the gold is almost all dialogue.
Wow.
And I've written it in a. I always planned to try and sell the film rights once I'd written it, because it's so I wrote it in a very kind of filmic way. And if we're talking about films, then I suppose it's kind of like a bit of a Richard Curtis film with a touch of kind of Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. With
Oh, yes. I
but
love
Richard
that movie.
Curtis films, yeah, I don't know how big they are in America. But Notting Hill, do you remember that one with Julia
I
Roberts?
do. I do. I loved
Lovely.
that.
That kind of, it's got that kind of feel, but there's kind of some darkness, which is where there's a tiny bit of Quentin Tarantino kind of in there too.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's light and dark,
Yes.
serious and funny, light and dark. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that sounds like a pretty good mix. I like both of those films that you just mentioned. So definitely that would be very interesting to dive into, I do
Oh,
believe.
I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's just such a
Gosh, it
great
was
film.
so good. It really was. It
I
really
love
was.
Tarantino anyway, but
I do
his
too.
films, I've never met him, but I love
I
his
think I've
work. Yeah.
seen every film but one. The only one I haven't seen is
I've
Reservoir
seen almost
Dogs.
all of them. I haven't seen Inglourious Bastards, and I haven't seen
Oh, I saw that.
some of his earlier work, but I've seen nearly all his recent work. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely. He's quite the genius. Well,
Well,
now,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my favorite. I love it. Love it. It
yes,
was
it
great.
was really good. Now, the gold, it is out, right?
Yeah, the official publication date was yesterday, but the
Oh my
paperback
gosh.
should be showing up any day on Amazon, and then
Oh,
in December it will be available on lots of other different platforms as well. Um, the ebook is already on Amazon, and if you go to my website judeauthor.com,
yes.
there's a pop-up that comes up, and you can just sign up for the newsletter and get yourself a free e-copy of the book.
Yes. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
you can just download one of those. And as I said, I'm working on the audiobook, and then after I've done that, I'm going to be recording. I'm spending the whole of 2022 recording audiobooks of all my previous 6 novels.
Wow.
And writing
That's,
another one as well. I've started writing another novel called FOMO, Fear
yeah,
of
I
Missing
saw
Out.
that. I
Yeah,
thought
I've started writing that.
currently being due for publication in 2022. It's the mid 80s. Oh, wow.
It's set
I
partly in the
like
80s because I lived in London in the 80s, so I can draw on all of that.
that. Yes.
And it's, I used to work at a Japanese nightclub as a kind of westernized geisha girl, and there was lots of very important heads of industry used to come into this Japanese nightclub when we used to entertain them. And I kind of, I mean, I was mixing with kings and heads of industry, and it was very enlightening. And I can kind of draw on all of that. And I was a busker on the London Underground as well in the 80s, singing Simon and Garfunkel and the Beatles songs. And there's lots of things I did in London I can draw on. I was working
Wow.
for the music press as well as a photojournalist. So yeah, it's set partly in the 80s, and then it's set in the current day as well, where the female characters who were young girls in the 80s are now in their kind of 50s and 60s, and they want revenge on the philanthropists who abused them in the 80s.
Oh,
So
wow.
they want
Wow.
they want revenge. So that's FOMO, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it sounds like I mentioned this earlier. You and I need to have a separate private Zoom so that I can hear all about your 80s, your 80s stories.
Oh yeah,
Oh, that might be
there's
that
lots
might
of
be
things
a
that
book.
can't stay on air. I got
I'm waiting for
I had several songs in the top 10 written about me.
Oh
When
my
you used to
gosh.
have the top 10, chart songs in the old days. And there were several songs in the top 10 that were written about me, which was kind of not that flattering actually when you read the lyrics, but
Oh my.
it was a nice thing to tell your grandchildren,
Well, I can't wait. I think you should write a memoir next. After
It's
FOMO, it's
been,
memoir time.
yeah, it has, yeah, lots of people have said I should do that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it sounds like just the section of life where you were entertaining heads of industry and kings.
And
That in and of
then the next
itself is
day I
just,
was going busking down the underground.
woo.
It was a
Oh,
crazy life,
wow.
but I loved it. It was incredible. I had a really good
It was
time
the
in the
80s.
80s. Yeah.
It, it was the 80s. Well, Judy, thank you so much for joining me today. Let's make sure, and of course, it will be in the show notes, but let's make sure you shout out all your social media handles and your website one more time. You mentioned some, but let's mention them
Yeah, well, you can
all.
find me at judeauthor.com. So that's easier to remember than judecalverttoulmin.com.
Right.
You'll find me there too. That directs to judeauthor.com. But Jude Author, I chose that because it was very easy to remember. And
Yes.
I'm on Instagram at Jude Author. I'm on Facebook. My Facebook page is Jude Author page. I'm trying to stay off too much social media because
Yeah.
because of my workload.
Right.
I mean, I've had long COVID for 18 months, so it's there's some days I'm just I can't work. I get brain fog. It's
Yeah.
long COVID's really taken it out of me. But luckily, you can be a writer when you're sitting on the sofa. So
Yes,
I would have
exactly.
been different if I'd been an actor in action movies, but I'm not. So I can sit on the sofa and write. So yeah, so I am trying to kind of not do as much social media. I think it can be very addictive. I'm going to write a blog article. I've got a blog on judeauthor.com, and I'm going to write a blog article very soon about social media addiction, because I do think that's a big,
Oh,
big problem in society now. Having said that,
yes.
I am on TikTok, and I'm going to be doing more TikToks to publicize the gold.
Wow. Okay.
But having said that, I do want to write social media addiction. I don't know what you think. What do you think, Deirdre? Do you think it's can become a problem, or?
It can be a problem, especially when it goes down the rabbit hole of negativity and bullying people and
Oh,
putting out
Peter, yeah. Yeah.
misinformation that can kill people. So I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
like that aspect. But then on
yeah,
another hand, it does bring people together. You
yeah.
can
Uh-huh.
see new ideas and
Mhm.
tips and hacks, as they call them, and all this kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it's helped a lot of people become entrepreneurs who would have never been able
Mhm.
to become a
Mhm.
brick and mortar entrepreneur.
Correct.
So it's
Mhm.
got its good points and its bad points.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah,
got its good points and bad points depending on what age you are. If you're a young
definitely.
teenage
Yeah,
girl,
yeah.
you're looking at these perfect girls on Instagram, and that can be, terrible.
Mhm.
But it has its good points and its
Mhm.
bad points. It probably, and this is not something that
Mhm.
Americans like to hear. I don't know about the UK. There probably needs some more regulation to it. And
Mhm.
to hopefully hash out some of that hate, because not to get into this, it kind of messed up our American political system. Social media did.
Yeah.
We have had
Uh-huh.
a
Mhm.
horrible and huge, during political cycles, election cycles, misinformation going out about
Oh, yeah.
different
I know.
politicians, and it was horrible. So not to get into that, because that's a whole other conversation that could last for 10
Well,
episodes.
I read the Washington Post. I keep up with
Yes.
American politics, and yeah, I was I was all over keeping up with that. It's been very distressing, you know.
Very
Yeah,
distressing, very distressing. And then
yeah.
I guess this was all over the world, but the misinformation that has gone out about COVID-19, that's been
Oh yeah,
hurtful, you know, and
yeah.
misinformation has literally killed people.
Kill people.
There's
Uh-huh.
people in the
Yeah,
grave right now because of misinformation.
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
it needs some regulation, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But on a lighter note, I want folks to go out to judeauthor.com to check Judy out even further. She's written tons of books, at least 10 books, all contemporary fiction, but all with very different subject matters. One erotic that I've got to check out. And we've got The Fear of Missing Out, FOMO, coming up in 2022. And she's going to be busy recording all of her audio books of every book she's ever written. It sounds exciting, Judy. I am just so happy for you and your
Thank
career and
you.
your success. And
Thank
look, and don't forget to write that memoir.
you. Okay. I'll
Thank
put
you
in the
so
beginning,
much, Judy.
inspired by Deirdre.
Thanks, Judy. Loved having you
Thank you
on.
so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, Deirdre. Thank you very much
Yeah.
for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thanks so much for joining us today at the Bookaholic Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at True Bookaholic, Twitter, True Bookaholic1, www.book-a-holic.com is my website. And this podcast can be found on Google, Apple, and Spotify. I also have a YouTube channel, Bookaholic Deirdre Pippins. And if you need to reach out to me, I can be reached at readingjunkie@book-a-holic.com. Check out the show notes below. I have all of my social media just in case I left one out, and we'll have all the information for Judy in the show notes as well. And join my mailing list so that you can see all the new things that we'll be doing in 2022. All right, thanks for joining. I really appreciate your support. And don't forget, support your local library and your independent bookstores.
Thank you for joining the Bookaholic Podcast. We appreciate your support. Remember to subscribe to the podcast, follow us on Instagram at True Bookaholic. You can also email us at readingjunkie@book-a-holic.com. Don't forget to support your local library and independent bookstores.